Welcome to the newly reimagined L.G.N podcast, formerly DiploChatz. Here, we explore global connections, local impact, and the stories that shape Northern Nevada. I'm your host, Yulia Rajah, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to our very first episode after the rebranding. Thank you for joining us as we embark on this next chapter together. Today, we're launching the season with an important conversation in our new series, Ask an Expert. We're diving into a topic that is often discussed, sometimes misunderstood, but deeply relevant to our community. What is refugee resettlement and how is Northern Nevada involved? In this episode, we'll explore what refugee resettlement truly means and what it doesn't, how the Northern Nevada International Center, NNIC, supports this process and the vital role it plays in our region. The step-by-step journey of becoming a refugee, from fleeing danger to eventually arriving in a new country. Common myths about refugee programs, including funding, resources, and the real costs and benefits to our community. I am very excited to bring clarity and insights to this complex topic. So let's begin. You're listening to the Local Global Nevada, the podcast where we connect Northern Nevada to the world by amplifying immigrant and international voices, bringing clarity to complex issues, and fostering dialogue that strengthens community understanding and trust. Through local stories with global perspectives, we show how diversity shapes and enriches our region. Brought to you by the Northern Nevada International Center. I'm your host, Yulia Rajah. All right, so let's start our podcast today. This is L.G.N, and today we're meeting with Dr. Carina Black, our expert, and we will learn what is refugee resettlement and how it shapes Northern Nevada. Hello, Dr. Black.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for attending our first ever episode after the rebranding our podcast, the DiploChatz formerly, and now it's Local Global Nevada. So today we'll talk about our refugee resettlement program at NNIC and how it impacts our region. So if you don't mind to start just outlining in general what we do here at NNIC and what wings do we have and what is refugee resettlement?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I can talk for hours about this, but I will try to be brief. The resettlement component of NNIC began in 2016 at the very end of the Obama administration. And it really, Northern Nevada has never had a refugee program. And so it took us quite a while to actually get all of the approvals going. It took over a year to start the process to become a resettlement agency. And what resettling refugees means is that we work very closely with the federal government and with an organization called a VOLAG, a voluntary agency. The VOLAG that we are with is called the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, and USCRI, and they have about 34 affiliates throughout the country, and we are one of those affiliates since 2016. Each affiliate is tasked with resettling a certain number of refugees every year. That number is ultimately determined by the President of the United States. So every year the President sets what's called a presidential determination. And that number has typically been between 50,000 and 200,000 people to the United States every year. And then every VOLAG then is assigned a specific number, and every affiliate is assigned a specific number. Here in Northern Nevada, we have resettled over 1,200 refugees and asylees since 2016. what that means is that we have supported families and individuals from Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Syria, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, and a couple of other countries. And we support these clients from day one when they arrive to this country. We pick them up at the airport. We make sure they have a place to stay, either a temporary or permanent, depending on how much notice we have, and that can range from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. And then we start a very rigorous and fast process of resettling these families to make sure that they gain self-sufficiency as quickly as possible.
Cool. So you mentioned that actually this department, the State Department, has these VOLACs across the country, and they have the number set up by the President of the United States. So basically that means that we as an organization, we do not decide who will receive that. Is that correct?
That's right. The government works with the United Nations or with other governments, specifically with United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and International Office of Migration, to allocate the refugees to different countries, and in this case to the United States and then to Reno, Nevada.
So basically NNIC is the first trustful resource for those people who come here to like a completely different country to them.
Yeah.
Is that right? And
Yes.
like we are the first people they meet.
Right. Right.
And basically it's on us to show how the American government work and how we take care of them.
Yes, and one of the things that we do for our clients is cultural orientation, or CO. And CO is part of the about 20 steps that we have to go through within the first 30 to 90 days with every refugee. And during CO, we talk about everything. It's like an American crash course. And we talk about the importance of gaining employment as soon as possible, how to interact with police, when do you call 911, how do you assure your family's safety, how do you make sure your kids are enrolled in school, why is it important to learn English, all of those things. So we go through a very rigorous, fast-paced program to make sure our clients understand that life in America is not easy. They're going to be struggling, but I think that the United States is made up of immigrants, and we have created this fast-paced path to self-sufficiency that most immigrants in the United States have actually gone through, including myself, including you.
Yeah. We basically are all immigrants here.
Exactly.
Which is very nice. And I think this brings a lot to the table as a society here. So that's interesting. I want to go a little back to the beginning of the NNIC's resettlement program. And again, you mentioned that Northern Nevada did not have one before NNIC started it. Mm-hmm. So, and you are the executive director. So basically, was it your decision and opinion to start the program? Could you please just outline your personal, attitude towards the program and why you think it's important to have one in Northern Nevada?
Sure. It's actually a very interesting story, I think. So we had, I had never thought about refugee resettlement before and becoming a refugee agency. We were an implementer of U.S. Department of State professional and cultural exchange programs. And we have done that for 20 plus years. And I was approached in fall of 2015 by the mayor's office. And the mayor had been at a mayor's conference meeting other mayors who talked about how incredible the contributions of refugees were in their cities. And so she came back and she asked her staff, how do we become a refugee city? So her chief of staff called me and said, the mayor is interested in doing this. We then worked on submitting the application to the government together, and it was rather fascinating because we submitted the application on November 15th, 2015, November 10th, 2015, which is the day that the terrorist attacks happened in Paris. And that kind of set us back a little bit. But ultimately we prevailed, and we were able to submit the application. And that's how we became a refugee agency. Then we started to hold stakeholder meetings with health, education, police. It was a matter of making sure everybody who might come in touch with refugees understands the responsibility. We had to train police force, law enforcement, about the fact that these are going to be people that don't have a passport or an ID. They have a piece of paper with their name and
a little picture on it.
A little picture on it. So it took a lot of educating, especially in the health and educational sector. So it's been a long journey. Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it started. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Well, basically that means that all the mayors from other cities just confirmed that it's really a positive thing to have refugees in their cities and towns. So do you have any stories, or maybe you have any highlights on to tell us and explain to the audience what is the positive impact refugee bring to the region?
Well, I have some data, which I think is the most important, other than the actual stories. But the data shows, and this data comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, which funds the first 5 years of a refugee's journey to the United States. And so the Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, manages that long-term resettlement process. And they did a study on from 2005 to 2019, and they looked only at refugees and asylees that had been brought to the United States and were getting services, as are called ORR populations. They looked at the amount of money those individuals received between 2005 and 2019, and they found that the net return to the American government was $128 billion.
How is that possible? Net return, what does it mean?
Net return meaning that if we, for example, provide each refugee with pocket money and money for the first couple of months, and all of those dollars that go into every single person that we resettle, but then within that 20 or 15-year period, those individuals contribute with taxes, with employment, with income taxes, with local taxes. Those tax returns only are the net benefit of those. So you deduct all of the expenses, and then what the refugees contribute, and that's $128 billion in profit, so to say, to the U.S. government.
Wow, that's amazing. That's actually a big contribution. And do you have a number of how many people were what are the numbers of those refugees were involved in the study?
I don't know what the exact number was of those individuals, but the U.S. government officially became a resettlement, started resettling, or started the official act of resettling in 1980. And since 1980, almost 3.5 million refugees have been resettled in the United States. So if you look at just the number from 2005 to 2019, that's obviously a much smaller number. So I don't think they have tallied yet the larger number of refugees, the 3.5 million folks, and how much they have contributed to the U.S. economy in general. But if you even look at the contributions of immigrants here in the state of Nevada or in northern Nevada, for example, Hispanic and Latino businesses are the fastest growing driver of the economy in Nevada. Latinos create more businesses than the general broader community. They now a recent study says they create more. They use AI much more significant. They are more eco-friendly. So immigrants in general contribute to the economy because we have to be savvy and fast, and we have to learn fast, and we have to be scrappy. And if I, as an immigrant, think about how many skills I had to learn in order to be successful, I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying. So think about us who speak English and who have a basic education. How many things we had to learn to be successful in this country. Now take a refugee who maybe doesn't speak English, who maybe doesn't know how to drive, whose children have never gone to school in a school building. So the learning curve for them is so steep. But at the same time, the resilience and the benefits of having to adapt so quickly, that's what makes immigrants and refugees so powerful when it comes to the U.S. economy and to our communities. They contribute in so many different ways, other than just the economic factors.
That's right, culturally as well. And just to outline the difference in between immigrants and refugees themselves. So basically, refugee resettlement, as I understand, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a very successful governmental business project, I guess.
I guess I've never heard it explained that way, but yes.
Yeah, because it's proven already by the study. And aside from all the cultural differences those people bring to the table and all the different, businesses and services they can provide here in the society, it's a very successful business for the government as well, because they get tax payers and whatever else they can get, right?
Yep.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Again, let's talk a little bit about the stereotypes and some misunderstanding of the whole refugee thing. So why do you think, in your personal opinion, people have that thought that having refugees in their community is not something that benefits them?
Yeah. Such a big question. Well, I mean, I think on a broader level, the word immigrant can have so many different, evoke so many different emotions from people. Some people believe that immigrants, are different, and they don't assimilate well. Especially right now, there's a lot of conversation about that. I think a lot of people don't understand what a refugee is, and so maybe I should start by saying, an actual definition of a refugee is somebody who has fled their country to another country for fear of persecution, for a variety of factors: race, religion, many other political opinion and other things. So they have to have fled their country due to a protracted conflict. So if a conflict exists, the United Nations and UNHCR, they have to make a determination. It takes many years for them to do that a population is worthy of refugee status. Those refugees have had to have crossed a border into another country where they then can approach a United Nations office to make a case for refugee status.
So they have to have something going on on their personal level to become a refugee.
Exactly. And so most people don't understand. And then they sit in that country and wait. 99% of all refugees always remain refugees. They're not resettled. So a very tiny drop in a bucket, receive the golden ticket of being resettled in Europe or in the United States.
And sorry to interrupt you, who decides usually what country those refugees would go?
It's the United Nations in conjunction with that presidential determination I mentioned. So under the presidential determination, that doesn't just notify a number. So for example, under the current administration, that number is 7,500. But it also lists the exact places where those refugees will come from. So under normal circumstances, the government, and there are many governments that resettle refugees, will attach where those refugees come from to a broader geopolitical national strategy. So in the past, if we have wanted to secure peace in the Middle East, or we wanted to work with our friends in Afghanistan when we were friends, then those refugee numbers would be attached to the national security strategy from those countries.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. So what happens after those families flee their own country and they register with the UN? What happens next?
So those with the golden ticket, they might linger. They might sit there for years and years until they get a call from the United Nations. I was recently able to go visit one of those refugee camps in Kenya. Kakuma refugee camp has existed since 1992. And there are over 300,000 people that live in that camp. Many have lived there for generations. And so similar to our immigration system, the international refugee system is broken. It was never designed for people to linger in camps for generations and decades. The idea was, we're going to help those people out for a little bit, and then hopefully they'll all be resettled. Well, that never happened. Repatriation in many cases hasn't happened. If you think of countries like Rwanda or Democratic Republic of the Congo or Burundi, a lot of those conflicts go on and on and on, and people are unable to return to their home countries. The one country where I think it's a very different and maybe unique situation is Syria. Everybody has their eyes on Syria because there was a conflict. The president of that country is now gone. There's a new president, and there's hope that the country will restore its kind of more peaceful and economic ability to bring back people. The question then, of course, becomes what happens to the Syrians that came to Europe, Canada, and the United States and became American citizens, for example. Are they willing to go back? And I believe some will.
I think some people would definitely go back
to make sure that their country survives. So, but that is the rarity. Mm-hmm. That is not the norm of refugee resettlement.
Okay. Well, okay. So then you said, I mean, this is awful, of course, that people have to spend generations in the refugee camps. And of course, your experience in Kakuma and whatever you shared with us here in the office was devastating. And the situation and like just the resources available and even the housing situation in those places are not the best. It's even like I don't even know how to explain that and how to name that situation, but it's terrible, it's horrible, and people has to kind of adjust to this life. So what is after, like how people get selected and then they just come, and what happens next? And I know we're kind of repeating ourselves, but I just want to make sure our audience understand the whole journey.
So if a family is selected, maybe because they're especially vulnerable, perhaps a woman with several children who have no ability to really make it on their own, or somebody with significant medical conditions, or somebody with a particular technical skills and professional skills. Once those individuals are selected, they start, if they get resettled to the United States, I can't speak of the other countries, but if they get resettled to the United States, they have a lengthy process, up to 2 or 3 years of all different types of vetting. They are having their social media vetted. They do biometric checks. They do interviews for all the members of the family. They have medical checks, mental health checks. And there's about 18 different U.S. federal agencies that are typically involved in the vetting of refugees. And this was especially critical, again, with our Syrian population, which were in desperate need of getting out of Jordan and Turkey and Iraq and other countries. Mm-hmm. But many of them had to wait many, many years to go through all of those vetting processes. And then they one day they get a call from IOM, International Office of Migration, and they get put on an airplane. The interesting thing is that most people also don't understand about refugees is that 6 months after they arrive here in the United States and they have just barely begun to adjust to life in the United States, they have to start paying back the airline tickets to the federal government that brought them here. So you can imagine, you came to this country, you're just starting a job, you're just kind of barely making it, and then you start getting an invoice from the federal government. If you have a family of 8 or 10, you have to pay back every single one of those airline tickets.
That's insane. Who decided to do that?
Well, I think that has to do with the fact that this is America. In America, many decisions are being made on the basis of business. And we also have to, politically, have to show that refugees are contributors to the economy. So even with that, with that extra burden, refugees still become successful in this country.
Because they're very resilient, I would say. Anything could happen after those refugee camps. It's better anyways, I would say.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so moving forward then, current political situation, you mentioned earlier, this year determination is only 7,500 refugees that the United States are going to accept. So would you please outline a little bit of what NNIC is going to do moving forward, on what basis any of those decisions are made?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Our numbers, last year we resettled about 450 individuals. This year it will be a very low number. We are just now beginning to receive our first families from South Africa. They're white Afrikaners. It's after having visited Kakuma and seen people starving and seen refugees who have lingered in camps for many, many decades. This is a hard pill to swallow. However, as you mentioned in the very beginning, we have never chosen the people that are coming to this country. So we basically do the very best we can to provide good service for the individuals that are being resettled in this country. And we also have about 500 clients to think about whom we resettled over the last few years and who really still very much need our help. So as an organization, we decided that really retaining our core principle of providing social services to individuals who come to this country as newcomers and immigrants, that's the service we're going to provide, and we will happily do it for all of the individuals that the government brings at this moment.
Yeah, and I think this is very important because we just serve people. We can't decide who we serve, right? We just need to respond to those who are in need.
Correct.
So thank you so much, Carina, for doing all that. I think this is an amazing job, and I think Carina community should be very proud to have Northern Nevada International Center here around. And if anyone would like to get involved, I know we did not mention this, but in our next episodes, you will definitely hear about the opportunities with us to get involved in our volunteer program. We have an amazing women empowerment program that we run and help women adjust to the new culture and to the new life in the U.S. So if you would like to get involved, please reach out to us on NNIC at nnic.org. And we forgot to mention also about the affiliation of our organization with UNR. So also, like, this is a very unique situation, correct, Carina?
Yes, we're actually the only refugee agency in the U.S. that's affiliated with a university, and that makes us quite unique. We're only one of 3 that conducts both refugee resettlement and professional cultural exchanges. So we are super proud of our affiliation with the university. This morning we visited students on campus who are our clients, and as a educator myself, that is probably the number one reason why I think that connection between academia and refugee resettlement it's a no-brainer. We connect families to higher education so that the next generation can have a better future.
That's great. Is there any message you would like to deliver to our audience to come into the end?
Yeah, so I want to thank the Northern Nevada community, because a refugee agency is only a conduit. It is only the center of the spoke to our hundreds of volunteers, our partners in health, in education. We have individuals who come and teach refugees how to drive. We have partners who provide everything from English to basic education and health services. When we have clients who have severe PTSD or health issues, we can rely on an amazing community in Northern Nevada. So I'm really proud of being part of this community and of this organization.
So thank you so much, NNIC and Carina community, for supporting us. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Black, for attending our episode today. We hope to see you in the future back, probably for something else, for our to explain other wings that we have and other fields and areas of work we do.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to come back.
Thank you so much.